Once, a single drop of sunlight fell from the heavens and transformed into a magical golden flower. This flower had the power to heal the sick and keep the elderly young. For centuries, a woman named Mother Gothel used its magic to keep herself immortal. However, when the beloved queen of the nearby kingdom of Corona fell ill while pregnant, the royal guards found the flower. They brewed it into a tonic which saved the queen and granted her newborn daughter, Princess Rapunzel, beautiful golden hair with the same healing properties. Driven by greed, Mother Gothel broke into the castle to steal a lock of the baby's hair. But she discovered that once cut, the hair turned brown and lost its power. Desperate, she kidnapped the princess and vanished. Gothel raised Rapunzel in a hidden tower deep in the woods, acting as her mother. She told the girl the outside world was a place of horror and danger, filled with selfish people who would steal her hair. For nearly 18 years, Rapunzel remained a prisoner of the tower, her only companion, a small, loyal chameleon named Pascal. Every year on her birthday, she watched thousands of floating lights drift into the night sky from the distance. She didn't know they were lanterns released by the king and queen in hopes of their lost daughter's return. To Rapunzel, they were a mystery she was determined to solve. As her 18th birthday approached, she gathered her courage to ask her mother for one thing: to see the floating lights in person. Gothel, cold and manipulative, refused, insisting that Rapunzel was too weak and too naive to survive the world. While Mother Gothel was away on a 3-day journey to fetch a special gift, destiny arrived at the tower in the form of a charming thief named Flynn Rider. Flynn had just stolen the lost princess's crown from the royal palace and was fleeing the king's guards and his own treacherous partners, the Stabbington brothers. In his desperation to hide, he stumbled upon the hidden tower and climbed its heights, thinking it was abandoned. He was wrong. As soon as Flynn stepped through the window, Rapunzel knocked him unconscious with a heavy frying pan. Terrified but curious, she hid his satchel containing the glittering crown and tied him to a chair using her 70 feet of magical hair. When Flynn woke up, he was bewildered. He tried to charm his way out of the situation, but Rapunzel was unimpressed by his smoldering looks. She realized this was her chance. She made Flynn a deal. If he guided her to the floating lights and brought her back home safely, she would return his precious satchel. Flynn, wanting to avoid the guards who were surely hunting him, reluctantly agreed. For the first time in her life, Rapunzel stepped out of the tower and onto the soft green grass. Her journey had finally begun, though she was torn between the thrill of freedom and the guilt of disobeying her mother. Flynn, hoping to scare Rapunzel back to her tower, took her to a place called the Snuggly Duckling. It was a tavern filled with the most terrifying-looking thugs, Vikings, and ruffians in the kingdom. He expected Rapunzel to run home in tears, but the young princess had a way of finding the good in everyone. When the thugs realized Flynn was a wanted man, they tried to capture him for the reward. Rapunzel stood her ground, swinging her frying pan and demanding they let him go so he could fulfill his promise to her. She asked the ruffians if they ever had a dream, revealing her own dream of seeing the lanterns. To Flynn's surprise, the tough men softened. One by one, they shared their secret passions, playing the piano, interior design, and finding true love. The moment of joy was interrupted when the palace guards, led by the horse Maximus, arrived at the tavern. The thugs helped Rapunzel and Flynn escape through a secret tunnel. Maximus, a horse with the investigative skills of a detective, didn't give up easily. He tracked them to a massive dam. During the chase, the dam collapsed, and Rapunzel and Flynn found themselves trapped in a dark, flooding cave.
I can't see anything.
It's no use. We're trapped.
Inside the dark, flooding cave, the water rose rapidly. Flynn tried desperately to find a way out, but the rocks were wedged tight. Thinking they were about to drown, Flynn confessed that his real name was Eugene Fitzherbert. In return, Rapunzel revealed that her hair glowed when she sang. She began the healing incantation, and her hair erupted in a brilliant golden light, illuminating the cave floor. The light allowed them to see a gap in the rocks. They swam through just in time, bursting onto the surface of a nearby river. Safe on the shore, Flynn was stunned by the magic he had just witnessed. Rapunzel explained the history of her hair, how it could heal wounds and turn back time, but also how it was a burden that kept her locked away. As they dried off, Flynn began to see Rapunzel not as a means to an end, but as a person of incredible spirit. Meanwhile, Mother Gothel had discovered Rapunzel was missing. She found the crown in the tower and realized the girl was with a thief. Gothel tracked them down and met with the Stabbington brothers, offering them the crown in exchange for their help in reclaiming Rapunzel. She found Rapunzel alone for a moment and tried to convince her that Flynn only cared about the crown. She handed Rapunzel the satchel, challenging her to test Flynn's loyalty. The next morning, Rapunzel and Flynn reached the kingdom of Corona. For Rapunzel, it was an overwhelming explosion of color, people, and life. Flynn, who was starting to fall in love with her, spent the day showing her the wonders of the city. They ate street food, she joined a group of children in a traditional dance, and she even braided her hair with wildflowers so she could move freely through the crowds. During their time in the square, Rapunzel saw a mosaic of the king, the queen, and their lost infant princess. She noticed the golden sun symbol of the kingdom, which felt strangely familiar, though she couldn't quite place why. As the sun began to set, Flynn took her out onto the lake in a small rowboat. The moment Rapunzel had waited for her entire life finally arrived. Thousands of lanterns rose into the air, reflecting off the dark water like stars. It was more beautiful than she had ever imagined. In the glow of the lanterns, she realized her dream was complete, but a new dream was beginning. She handed Flynn the satchel with the crown, proving she trusted him. Flynn, however, didn't care about the crown anymore. He looked at Rapunzel and realized she was the only thing that mattered. Just as they were about to kiss, Flynn saw his former partners, the Stabbington brothers, on the shore. He told Rapunzel he would be right back and went to give them the crown to settle his debt. But it was a trap set by Mother Gothel. The brothers knocked Flynn unconscious, tied him to a boat, and sent it drifting toward the palace guards. The brothers then approached Rapunzel, lying to her that Flynn had abandoned her and taken the crown. Before they could grab her, Mother Gothel appeared, saving Rapunzel by knocking the brothers out. Heartbroken and believing Flynn had betrayed her, a weeping Rapunzel allowed Gothel to lead her back to the tower. Back in the castle, Flynn was captured and sentenced to death. However, with the help of Maximus and the thugs from the Snuggly Duckling, he staged a daring escape. He knew Rapunzel was in danger and raced back to the tower as fast as Maximus could carry him. Meanwhile, back in her room, Rapunzel looked at a sun-patterned flag she had brought from the kingdom. Suddenly, memories flooded back. She saw the sun symbols she had subconsciously painted on her walls for years. She realized she was the lost princess.
I am the lost princess.
Rapunzel confronted Mother Gothel, declaring she would never let Gothel use her hair again. But Gothel, losing her mind to desperation and age, chained Rapunzel up. When Flynn reached the tower and climbed inside, Gothel stabbed him with a hidden blade. Rapunzel screamed, pleading with Gothel to let her heal him. She promised that if she could save Flynn's life, she would go with Gothel willingly and never fight back again. Gothel agreed, knowing Rapunzel's word was a bond she would never break. But as Rapunzel approached the dying Flynn, he told her he couldn't let her sacrifice her life for him. Before she could sing the incantation, Flynn used a shard of broken glass to cut Rapunzel's long golden hair. Instantly, the hair turned brown and lost its magic. Without the power of the hair to sustain her, Mother Gothel began to age rapidly. She tripped over the fallen hair, fell from the tower window, and turned to dust before she hit the ground. Flynn lay dying in Rapunzel's arms. With his final breath, he told her, "You were my new dream." She whispered back, "And you were mine." As Flynn took his last breath, Rapunzel began to sob. She sang the healing incantation one last time, though the magic was gone. A single tear, filled with the last trace of the sun's power, fell from her eye and landed on Flynn's cheek. A golden light pulsed through his body, healing his wound and bringing him back to life. Overjoyed, the two shared a kiss before heading back to the kingdom. When they arrived at the palace, the king and queen recognized their daughter immediately. After 18 long years, the family was finally reunited in a tearful embrace. The kingdom erupted in celebration. The thugs from the tavern saw their dreams come true, and even Maximus was honored for his bravery, becoming the head of the royal guard. Flynn, or Eugene, was pardoned for his crimes. He and Rapunzel lived a life filled with adventure and honesty, eventually getting married. Rapunzel finally found her home, and she never had to hide her light again. The floating lanterns, once a symbol of loss, became a symbol of a princess who had finally found her way back to the sun.